watching The Meech.
There are three things you shouldn't discuss: politics, religion, and Nintendo. Mainly Nintendo on Twitter though. I had no idea Harvard had so many 15-year-old graduates because these so-called lawyers will stop at almost nothing to defend Nintendo's poor business decisions, and they do it for free too. Though to be fair, it's not far off from what Nintendo YouTubers make, being $2 an hour. Yeah, I'm ungrateful and entitled for wanting a game to launch complete. I would absolutely love to order a pizza and only get a quarter of it and have the rest delivered over the course of the year. Execute me for criticizing the almighty Nintendo. But if there's one thing I think almost every Nintendo fan can agree on, it's that Nintendo is ridiculously overprotective of their IPs. They are known to shut down fan games and projects by sending cease and desists. It's pretty frustrating and sad that instead of Nintendo embracing their fans, they go out their way to shut down fan games and stuff like that. Nintendo is the kind of company that would send a cease and desist to a 5-year-old for drawing a picture of Mario in art class. Sega might not be making consoles anymore, but Sega still does what Nintendo don't. All Nintendo does by shutting down fan projects is creates animosity and makes them seem petty. But it's not like Nintendo is losing sales because of these fan games. Super Mario 3D All-Stars still sold very well, despite Render 96 kicking its butt. And these fan games are free too. It's a crappy thing to do shutting down fan projects. It's not a crime to cut in line, but you just don't do it. In the end, nothing Nintendo does trying to stop fan projects with the idea they're losing sales matters, because they're going to need more than just Stanley the Bugman to stop the infestation of bootleg Nintendo games and consoles. In case you're living under a rock, or Bedrock in Seven Granddad's case, bootleg games and consoles are sold without a company's permission and contain copyrighted content. They range from counterfeit copies of the Pokemon games, and even hacks swapping the playable character with Mario. Because, you know, everyone's favorite Mario character is Ronald freaking McDonald. Some of the games are even made from the ground up, such as the Famicom port of Super Mario World. And of course, we have the Russian Sega Genesis bootlegs with the absolutely horrifying game over screens. There are so many bootleg systems and games that I could make an entire video about them. But regardless, when you think of bootleg games, you likely associate them with being of poor quality. So when I saw the game for the first time I'm about to show you, I assumed it was nothing but a bootleg. But as it turns out, this game was actually licensed by Nintendo. But why? This is the story of Crazy Kong. When Nintendo saw how popular arcades and video games were in the West, they wanted to expand beyond Japan. They attempted to do so by bringing over some of their popular arcade games. Radarscope was one of the most popular games in Japan, but in the West, it ended up failing miserably. Nintendo was stuck in a warehouse full of 2,000 unsold Radarscope cabinets, so as a last-ditch effort to get into the Western market, Nintendo's president assigned Shigeru Miyamoto a project to convert the unsold Radarscope cabinets into. The result of this idea created one of the most important things in gaming history, none other than Grooves! Sorry guys, Nintendo's PR department messed with the video. My apologies. The actual result? None other than Donkey Kong. This, in my opinion, is the most important game ever released. Not only did it introduce Mario and Donkey Kong to the world, but it was really the first game of its kind. Space Panic came before it, but Donkey Kong was the first true platformer. Needless to say, it was a huge success for Nintendo. Nintendo underestimated how successful Donkey Kong would be, creating a shortage of arcade cabinets. Nintendo was already quite successful in Japan, and they wanted to make sure they kept the traction going in the West. Thus, the West had priority in getting Donkey Kong cabinets, but Nintendo didn't want to neglect the Japanese market. There was a shortage of Donkey Kong arcade boards and cabinets as stated before. What they decided to do is license Donkey Kong to another company, being Falcon. No, not that Falcon. Nintendo stated that Falcon could legally distribute their adaptation of Donkey Kong, but only in Japan. So the question is, why would Nintendo license Donkey Kong to another company? How could it be a bootleg if it was licensed? And how does this make any sense, considering that there was a shortage of Donkey Kong arcade boards and cabinets? Well, let's find out. Did you ever want to know what Donkey Kong on crack would look like? Probably not. But that's exactly what Crazy Kong is. The colors aren't accurate at all. The girders in 25 meter are green instead of pink. Green! Maybe the reaction would be different if they were purple. Purple is my favorite color! Mario himself looks closer to his appearance in Super Mario Bros. And by the way, why they decided to give Mario a brown shirt instead of a red or blue one in Super Mario Bros. Is beyond me. Crazy Kong looks bizarre too. Pauline though, looking fine as always. It's unclear where the original Donkey Kong took place, but I'm assuming New Donk City. Crazy Kong, I know for certain, takes place in Pasco County, Florida. Not only does it look radically different, but animations are missing. In Donkey Kong, it's very clear he's throwing barrels, but in Crazy Kong, it looks like he's pooping them out. And the sound effects, well, just listen. While it's pretty funny hearing Mario yell "Hi-ya" the first few times, it becomes annoying. So what was the reason behind the inaccurate coloration and sound effects? Apparently, this game runs on modified Crazy Climber hardware, which is where most of the sound effects are from. And it also explains the weird coloration, as I'm sure Crazy Kong uses the same color palette as Crazy Climber. I'm not sure how Donkey Kong is able to run on different hardware, but it's been done before. Unauthorized bootleg versions of Donkey Kong such as this one made by Taito Brazil, yeah, totally legit, run on Galaxian hardware. Though to be fair, that's probably the best use of a Galaxian cabinet you can get. Despite how weird the game's presentation is the gameplay any good? Crazy Kong is based on the original Japanese release of Donkey Kong. If you've ever played Donkey Kong in the West, the stages are out of order. You start in 25 meter, then go to 100 meter, and work up from there. I always wanted to play the Cement Factory stage that the NES version notoriously lacked, and every cabinet I played had the levels out of order. I thought they were defective at first, but now I know that's how the game released over here, and I actually had to get good at the game to reach the Cement Factory like a real man. But oddly enough in Japan, the stages are in order, making the game a bit easier. Weren't we the ones who were so bad at gaming that we got a different Super Mario Bros. 2 because of it? Anyways, Crazy Kong is essentially mostly the same gameplay-wise. It does have a slightly different layout, but it does suffer from a few issues. For one, the collision detection is not as precise as Donkey Kong. And two, the hammer doesn't have any music when you get it. It may not seem like a big deal, but unlike Pac-Man where the ghosts flash when a power pellet's about to wear off, there's no visual indication in Donkey Kong when the hammer will wear off. There is an audio indication though. The hammer song loops exactly 6 times. By the 5th time, make sure you anticipate oncoming barrels. Crazy Kong, on the other hand, doesn't have an audio or visual indication when the hammer will wear off, but it's pretty easy to remember the hammer song from Donkey Kong, so it shouldn't be too big of an issue. Then we get to stage 2, 50 meter, the legendary Cement Factory I always wanted to play as a kid. I'm so excited to... Oh my gosh. What in the name of Kong is this? I get that Donkey Kong is supposed to be a villain, but he's always been portrayed as goofy. Crazy Kong, on the other hand, gives Travis the Chimp a run for his money. He looks like he wants to maul someone, tear them apart, and drink their blood. After the initial WTF and potentially crapping your pants after seeing Crazy Kong, this is exactly like the Cement Factory in Donkey Kong, but with weird coloration. What's also weird is once that you clear the level, you see what looks to be a regular Donkey Kong, but orange and green. Why did they need to make the monstrosity known as Crazy Kong when Donkey Kong is right there? Then we get to 75 meter, the spring stage, also known as the stage everyone loves to hate in Super Smash Bros. We are greeted to this demonic Kong once again, and it's essentially the same as 75 meter in Donkey Kong. There is a slight difference where the jump to the high platform is made a bit easier than in Donkey Kong, but it remains the same for the most part, only the girders are now orange? Okay guys, moving on before we get a flashback of a certain orange. Your reign of terror is almost over, Crazy Kong, because now we're at 100 meter, the Rivet stage. This is the only stage in the game that looks close enough to looking accurate to the original Donkey Kong, but with Crazy Kong being Crazy Kong, there are still inconsistencies. In Donkey Kong, the fire enemies are much larger and harder to avoid than the standard fireballs, but in Crazy Kong, The fireballs are exactly the same as the standard fireballs. Once you clear the stage, you'll witness the classic love story of Donkey Kong. Kong falls to his doom, snapping his neck. Mario realizes that he's soon gonna be arrested for animal cruelty. He makes a run for it and flees to the Mushroom Kingdom, where he won't get extradited. Then Luigi appears out of nowhere, understanding he now has opportunity to date Pauline. Pauline accepts, and Luigi and Pauline live happily ever after. Oh wait, that's not the ending of Donkey Kong? It certainly appears that way here. What Crazy Kong is essentially a worse and weirder version of Donkey Kong. The gameplay is mostly identical to the original, but has enough inconsistencies with the presentation and gameplay to remain a flat-out bizarre game. But we're not done yet. Donkey Kong never saw a sequel that expanded on the original. Donkey Kong Jr. is a sequel to Donkey Kong, but it focuses more on climbing, more than jumping. Don't even get me started on Donkey Kong 3. That's worth an entire video on its own. But that didn't stop Falcon from making a sequel to Crazy Kong. This is Crazy Kong Part 2. It starts off with Crazy Kong breaking out of his cage, and I don't know what it is, but there's something unsettling about this cutscene. It's pretty much the same as Crazy Kong, but with a color palette much closer to Donkey Kong, a less terrifying Kong, and a few layout differences in levels. This is what Falcon's Donkey Kong adaptation should have been like in the first place, but in the end, I'd rather play the original Donkey Kong any day. Despite being officially licensed by Nintendo, how is it a bootleg? Nintendo licensed Donkey Kong to Falcon under the agreement that the arcade cabinets would only be distributed in Japan. When you're given the license to one of the most popular games that only have one simple rule to follow, of course you'd follow it, right? Nah, that was too unreasonable according to Falcon. Falcon breached the contract by distributing Crazy Kong cabinets outside of Japan. They're a rarity, but they're out there. Nintendo terminated the contract with Falcon in 1982 after discovering that Crazy Kong cabinets were distributed outside of Japan. Not only did they end the contract, but Nintendo filed a lawsuit against Falcon and won. You would expect this to be the end, but Falcon was so persistent when it came to making Donkey Kong games that they apparently made an unauthorized Crazy Kong Jr. Unfortunately or fortunately, I can't find footage of the game anywhere, but what it led to was the president of Falcon actually getting arrested for unauthorized copying of Donkey Kong Jr. boards, making it the first arrest in relation to video game piracy. This fiasco could have all been avoided if Falcon just followed Nintendo's one simple reasonable rule of keeping Crazy Kong in Japan. Needless to say, Crazy Kong has never been acknowledged by Nintendo, has never been re-released, and unlike the Mario Kart Arcade Grand Prix games where it's baffling that those games have never been re-released or officially acknowledged, I can totally see why Nintendo doesn't acknowledge Crazy Kong, but it remains a weird part of Nintendo's history and could potentially explain their attitude towards fan games and emulation. So there you have it. Here's a story of Nintendo's official bootleg. While it wouldn't have been a bootleg if it stayed in Japan, it falls into a weird gray area because of the circumstances surrounding it. But if you thought the year of Kong was over, think again. Nintendo might not care about Donkey Kong's anniversary, but that's what I'm here for. So what do you guys think? Have you played Crazy Kong before? Anyways, thanks for watching, and keep calm and da-da on.